Coaches and affiliate owners, we are super excited to launch our FitFilliate Founders League. It is hosted over on the Skool platform, and you'll find a link in the show notes or a link in our bio over on Instagram. This is a group where there will be higher level conversation, higher level thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, a little bit of fun, but the end game is everybody is helping everybody else be better. So I'll see you over there. And welcome back to the next episode of the FitFilliate podcast, joined by Mr. Andrew Charlesworth, and Tony's back this week. Sorry, Andrew, we can't run amok again this week.
That was a good time though.
Yeah, it was a
I'll just head out.
time.
You guys need me, I'll be over here.
Dad's come home, so we've got to play by the rules today. And
there are no rules.
So welcome back.
There's one rule.
Well, I think we're all ticking that box, hopefully. I know I am, but you too? Well, Andrew's in a public library, so I'm hopeful that he has followed that rule.
I know, with his arms out like that, though, he's definitely going to get his library card revoked.
It's honestly just so humid. I have no other choice of what to pick to wear.
My door was just open. I was like, I gotta batten down the hatches. It is so gross.
Meanwhile, it's 0 degrees Celsius here this morning.
Oh, nobody feels bad for your prison island weather.
Took me 5 minutes yesterday when I had to go somewhere to get the ice off my windscreen. And we don't even get snow. It's just frost was hard packed on there. It was ridiculous.
That's just because you get old and crunchy now, and it gets cold. Your joints start to hurt.
I don't know what this thing is with my age in the last 2 days, but cool.
It's because I've been forced to confront my age in the last few weeks, so I'm making sure that everybody else has to confront theirs in my purview.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on from that subject to talk about today's actual topic. And I think this is something that's a little bit misunderstood in the ecosystem, and that is how to scale your business. Now, hopefully everyone understands scaling from a CrossFit workout perspective, but I know we talk a lot about if you want to scale your business, but I think it kind of, when people think in the CrossFit ecosystem about scaling, they're like, is that like downsizing? I don't want to downsize my business. I want to make it better. So I thought it was probably time for us to talk about what is scaling your business and some things to think about in that regard. And go.
The reason I'm laughing is that I'm thinking about. Technically, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but for example, just the word scaling, but you could use any business term interchangeably. And what I think about is how like kids say the darndest things when kids just use words in the complete wrong use. And you're just like, first of all, where did you learn that word? And that's not what it means, right? Like, and that's all I think about when I hear the word scale, because every business owner throws that word around now because it's been like lorded over them in the last handful of years more than ever. And it's just a very funny word where they just love to use it. And that's all I think about is a bunch of kids. So you can make that like the thumbnail, Lisa.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go, Andrew.
I think that fundamentally we don't know what scaling means, because sometimes people think scaling upwards, scaling bigger, scaling down, all of which can be beneficial to whatever goal you have, right? So I don't know. I think it's a word that gets tossed around a little way too much in any regard. So,
and I think it almost people feel like they're saying the words even though they don't really understand the concept of it, but they're also
that could be the thumbnail of the Princess Diaries.
they're a little bit scared of it either, because they're like, well, does that mean if I scale up my business that it doesn't need me anymore, ideally? Or, does it, they get a little bit scared of it because they're like, what does it mean? Like where do I fit? Because at the moment when, for most affiliates, the affiliate owner is at the center of the earth. They're the one riding the line. And as much as that might terrify them at times, this line going around in circles, it's like, but if I'm not in the center of everything, then what does that mean? And where do I fit?
It's that kind of plays into some I read today on Twitter. It's if you want to have things in order and in line, definitely don't own a business, right? Like if you want predictive, I think it was if you want predictability, don't own a business. And so I don't know, that just kind of reminded me of that. I feel like that's a good little twist we can take it, because I think when people think of scaling, they're like, if I get to a certain level, I may not have to do X, Y, or Z, which could be true, but it does not matter. So I think when people use the word scale, what they're trying to say is, I want to delegate responsibilities appropriately, so I may not have to make them. But for some reason, when you own a small business, you always end up hopping back in to make them. So I don't know.
Well, I think some of that, and I know that Tony and I have talked about that on the podcast before, is that, and I was talking about this on a call yesterday, that as humans, we like to keep reinserting ourselves back into the situation. So we will break things so that we can come back in and fix it or feel like we're still contributing. And like Tony's even been guilty of it. Like here is like, when you've handed something off, is like still reinserting yourself back in because you don't have the trust either in the people doing it, or, you still think that you're the only one that can do it that way. And then we break things and we overcomplicate it so that we're still needed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty deep, Lisa.
I bring my best energy at this time of the day.
At 2 a.m?
Yeah.
That's
what I'm.
At least
But
it
I'm
puts
my
the hammer
best.
down in the middle of the night. It's just how it works. You made the joke in the beginning about, well, not a joke, but the reference to scaling and workouts and the understanding or misunderstanding of how it applies there when talking about this topic. And I do think it's a salient and relevant place to start the conversation with scaling, because if you've been inside the CrossFit ecosystem for more than 5 minutes, it's very obvious that scaling, even as it applies to workouts, as it applies to CrossFit, is also overused and misunderstood, right? I think it is I would say, probably one of the hallmarks, benchmarks, standards of excellence, et cetera, of a good coach to understand what, how, and when to deploy scaling. And generally speaking, I would also say that it is also sort of the curse of the novice coaches to misunderstand it. And I think what people think about when it comes to scaling is, quote unquote, how to make a workout easier, right? How to make it more applicable or available to an unready client, right? But respectfully, that's completely wrong, right? I mean, it is one part of it for sure, but scaling is, no doubt about it, probably the most effective use of your time as a coach inside the gym on the floor, because every single one of the people in your gym, or in your class rather, in that moment, respectfully, have completely different goals, right? They might have some degree of collective identity in terms of like benchmarks or idea of stimulus of that workout, et cetera. And so that's one consideration, but the better consideration for you as a coach or the trainer at that class is, how does them meeting, achieving, or exceeding that expectation of that stimulus in today's workout play a larger role in their bigger goal? And the reason why that conversation is so important is that if for some reason somebody's long-term goal is, I'm trying to not get in the weeds of an example here, but if it's a long-term goal of something gymnastics related, but the workout itself has to be largely barbell related, an effective scaling strategy for that individual goal while still meeting that stimulus would be to give them a gymnastics related movement similar to or corollary to it. And I guess I share that not to talk about how to train fitness, but the word scaling is so infinitely used, but it's also the most important direction of intention and energy inside a singular person, whether that be in a fitness class, but also in your business, right? So when somebody says, or brings up scaling, they tend to refer to it as growing the business, right? That's the universal word for growing your business, but that's not it at all, right? Scaling your business is in many ways definitely growing, but it's essentially channeling your intention towards your vision, or your traction rather, and figuring out where or how or what is in the way of that. And those are the things that you need to focus on. And that could be growth. But in most cases, especially in our perspective with working with affiliates, scale looks almost always like, what do you need to stop doing to be successful? And that looks a lot like what happens on a training floor when it's time to scale. It's like, let's remove some of the distraction from the movement, the complication, so we can get to the intensity and the stimulus, and we can get to the achievement of the goal, if that makes sense. And I don't know if bringing it back to that helps, but I think for me, we see it so much with new affiliates. They're just trying to do everything. Just like in your class, every one of your clients just wants to RX everything. And at the same point, like completely missing the intention of the stimulus.
And I think some of that missing the intention of the stimulus is an important thing to focus on in that when you're in a class situation and you're either coaching the class or you're in the class being coached and someone's explaining that to you, but when you go into business, no one's sitting there and is explaining what the stimulus is or should be or could be, and like you said, when someone first goes into it, they go into it with all guns blazing and go, I'm going to do all the things like on day one. This is what we're going to be, rather than understanding that progression and applying it, because there's no one guiding. There's a lot of people who are willing to tell you what you should be doing. And if you look around and compare yourself to everyone else and think, I should do that, you could be like a dog chasing its tail for 3 hours. But without that sort of mentorship and guidance, it can be really overwhelming to really understand maybe what the stimulus should be.
Truly, right? There's a couple of things that you said in there, but then I was also distracted with the idea of a different part of this conversation. But for when you come into business, I wouldn't say it's simple in the beginning, right? Like it's obviously very chaotic. To Andrew's point, like if you want, consistency or you want some degree of normalcy, don't go into business, right? Because every day is quite literally a wild party of just uncertainty and unknown.
And not to stop you, I think that's what everyone initially, you think that you can leave your rat race by being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it does not go. But for some reason, it leads you to believe there too. So, I mean, it's like, to use your reference, though, Tony, that the scale, you can't scale a business unless you have somebody overseeing. To use your reference, then it's literally impossible. Because if you're the one scaling, you're always going to put more load on the bar. You're always going to do more dumb shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like when everybody's in a rush to get back to their garage gym and work out at home post-COVID because they reminded everybody that CrossFit was so accessible to anybody at anywhere. But then here we are 4 years later, and everybody has cherry-picked all their workouts, right? They've gone heavy in every Fran so that they don't actually have to do Fran. It's like, yeah, I do Fran all the time, but I do it with 135, right? That's the old deal that everybody loves to do Fran with 135 because it doesn't hurt as bad, right? And so you see that, and to your point, like scaling not only requires to have a certain degree of foundational understanding of both fitness, but also business, but it also needs somebody else to constantly look at, is what you're doing the best use of your effort in alignment with your goals? And I think it's hard for any human in any situation, whether it be business, fitness, professional careers, or otherwise, to be objective and critical with what they're doing, because everything seems like the most important use of your time at that moment, right? Like, especially in business, like there is no shortage of distractions that are omnipresent that ultimately feel like that email needs to be answered, or that coach needs to be addressed, or insert XYZ. And some of them may be true, but how do you know? And the way that you know is to figure out, really, most importantly, what is the vision, what is the mission of the business, where is it trying to get to? Because not every problem is created equal. But to bring it back about fitness, it's really easy to be like, yeah, I think today I'm going to go heavy in this workout, right? Like completely missing the point of where that singular workout plays a role in the larger picture of the workouts. And that's both the blessing and the curse, I think, of the variance of CrossFit. Everybody thinks that like, oh, there is no long-term strategy. That's not true. Really, that's not true at all. But from the outside looking in, you can be like, hey, you guys just do a bunch of random stuff every day with intention. And I think, as it applies to your business and it applies to scale and it applies to somebody observing you, scale, the golden child of scaling your business is to grow it, right? More members, more clients, more things. The golden child of scaling your business is actually increasing your business valuation. And this is where things get so lost in CrossFit affiliates, really in small business in general, because small business owners tend to be both owner operators. They tend to be self-employed in mindset, kind of like Andrew just said. They tend to oftentimes come from a career, maybe that is in the same field. Like maybe you're a really good plumber and you're done working for John, so you're going to become your own plumber, right? But either way, you still end up becoming just a further line item extension, right? And so many people tend to think in terms of that way, but every business, whether that be, a tech company of billions of dollars down to a small company, needs to be focused primarily on one thing, and that is increasing the value of the business. That seems scary, I think, to a lot of affiliate owners, because that seems like big business. And I think there's a collective hope inside the affiliate landscape that we don't have to be a business owner. We can just do this thing that we like to do, and it's going to actually make money, and things will be okay. But the good news is that your business valuation is a lot like, in this conversation, your overall fitness. Your singular workout, your singular movement that you're scaling, the singular intensity that you're pursuing in that workout plays a larger role, as you all know, in terms of the arc of your fitness. The same thing with the value of your business. If you're not objectively increasing the value of your business, well, you're actually you're detracting from it, right? You're taking away from the value of the business. And as it applies to scaling, I think the word gets confused a lot with busy. But people love to think that they're scaling their business by like doing more stuff, right? Like I want to add on more revenue streams. I want to add on more classes. I want to add on more programs. I want to add on. And that might make more money, no doubt about it. But there's an inherent sort of divergent graph that is the amount of effort that it takes you to grow your business is directly in opposition with the value of your business. So the more complicated you continue to make your business, the less valuable you make your business, right? So as people start to go after scale, it's a lot like it is in a workout. If we don't know where this plays a role in the whole thing, which in this case, fitness is exchanged or interchanged with valuation of your business, what your business is worth, right? Everything you do needs to be driving that number up, just like every workout you do should be driving up your fitness. But in the gym, you know this to be true, right? Like how many of your members, after a couple of months of CrossFit, after the workout's over, they sneakily move over and grab the rower and pull it down after the workout. And you're like, John, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to do some intervals. The workout wasn't hard enough. Right? Or I got to get ready for this thing, right? And so completely missing the point. And you can say to John, okay, where does that play a role in your fitness? Well, surely it's going to make me better. Is it? How do you know? Right? And so that I think is an important, hilarious example that everybody has been through at least one point in their gym. And it's the exact same thing that will happen inside you as your business. You will be John, you will pull down the rower, and you're going to hit your intervals after your workout thinking this has got to make me fitter. And it doesn't always.
Well, more is not better, which is what we've just said. But I think we get a little bit lost when it comes to business because of what we see around us on social media and just our perception of what business is. It should be this, even though it does scare us, which you said, that we don't want to become a big corporation, but part of it, our psyche is like, well, business needs to be that kind of structure. So it's finding that little middle ground, but understanding what's possible and, what's reasonable for you even.
Or Andrew can't find a comfy spot in the corner.
Like what?
No, Well,
Like
it's
watching Johnny try and find somewhere to go to sleep. Just-
somebody took my little room today, apparently. But
They took the layer. They took the
yeah,
the
this
bad
one's
man's
fine.
layer.
This one's much better anyway.
We got a map back there. We can
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be zoomed in on that, being like, where is he?
Yeah.
I guess to move it into a tactical sort of conversation, 2 examples. I said this to you yesterday. It's a reference in one of the modules in Skool. Business A has, I'll call it 200 members, and the affiliate owner works 60 hours a week inside the affiliate. Affiliate B has 100 members. The affiliate owner works 20 hours in the affiliate. Which one of those has a higher business valuation?
B.
I mean, I think generally speaking, when you hear that, you're like, boop, 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 beep, boop. Like, oh, it's going to obviously be B. I'm going to get walked into this thing, right? But it's the exact opposite how every single affiliate owner is pursuing their business. They're like, they think that revenue equals valuation, and it doesn't. I mean, it could. It certainly is a lever that you can pull on to increase your valuation, but the degree to which you are required to be inside your business as the business owner is a direct degree to the devaluation of the business in terms of its value. Right? Like whether that be to an investor.
Now, are you saying because that is more on an hourly basis?
Nope.
You know what I mean? Okay.
And the reason for this is that, just to answer your question directly, is that as somebody coming in, whether it's the bank to write you a loan, whether that be somebody to buy your business or somebody to invest in your business, you, as the owner, are the wild card. You get sick, you get disinterested, you get bored, you get distracted, you start a new business. The list of potential distractions is a mile long when it comes time to do the due diligence on a company's valuation, when the business owner is responsible for the bulk of the day-to-day operations, even if it makes the lion's share of the revenue. And the answer for that is simple. If I don't want to buy a business, if I got to buy the business owner, right? Like there's just, and if I'm a bank loaning you money, the same thing is true. I want that business owner to be focused solely on how good everybody else is doing their job so they can increase that revenue. I don't want to invest in a singular person.
You know, that's a good point. This is another plug for the Skool group, because these are the type of conversations that people need to be having, right? They need to be focused on revenue versus, you know, how much am I actually needed? Or, fuck, did you put that in Skool? Did I miss that? I don't think I did.
There's some conversations in there about it.
Okay. No, okay. I was going to say, and I mean, that's why I'm so obsessed with this concept, right? Because those are things that perhaps on the day my brains never went to. And then I log into Skool, it's the first thing I see in the morning. And then as an entrepreneur, you're slightly guided. Like I would have probably dove into that all day and be like, well, how much am I actually needed? Like, what is the valuation? Am I solely focused on, you know, all those things you just said? I guess that was a big plug for Skool, and I said it was not going to be. But
I mean, any place where you can put together a bunch of people who are collectively having higher level abnormal conversations that are effective and engaging, I think is probably worth plugging relentlessly.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, we talk, you know, just to your point then, Andrew, you're saying, you know, the frame of reference is always revenue. It's like, what is this thing worth if I'm plugged into it 24/7, or if I'm plugged into it, you know, significantly less? Like, what is the value? And I know we've had some conversations about, you know, in that group about, you know, well, what is the perception of value? But for you as a business owner, what is the true value of my business? And if I'm in it, and I had a conversation yesterday with an affiliate owner where I was like, you know, we were talking about standard operating procedures and how things are done. Yeah, it's all in mine and my business partner's head. Cool. So no one else could do a thing if you got hit by a bus. Well, we're not going to get hit by a bus. I went, yeah.
I mean, this thing, I hate to say it, but that's the same thing with like Tesla. You know, people are like, I'm buy Tesla stock, I'm going to retire on it. And I'm like, you guys understand, if Elon Musk gets a bad cold and is out for 6 months or something, I mean, he is the business, and that's not to say he's not a good business owner. It's just, you know, you look at someone like General Motors.
Yeah, which is
I
a
don't know.
faceless company. And
It is a
yeah,
faceless company.
it would continue on. And that's the comes back to that dichotomy almost of I'm in it and I'm running it because I'm the one responsible for it, but how do I extract myself from that?
Yeah, welcome to the FitFilliate podcast, where whatever we have in our brain, no matter what Lisa puts out to us, we end up going there. Because here's another thing. I think it goes based on what Tony said. You guys know how much the CEO of Coca-Cola made? I'm saying the word Coca-Cola last year. Tony, any guesses?
I don't know it off the top of my head.
56 million. Okay.
I was going to say 60 million, so I was close.
Yeah, 56 million. You know how much Warren Buffett made off of Coca-Cola? 506 million. So I put that in perspective of what Tony just said there, like valuation, right? Stockholders, shareholders, whatever. You know, Jeff Bezos owns 17% of Amazon. His goal every year is to essentially just write the best letter to his investors. And I don't say that that's ever going to happen in a CrossFit gym, but think about it. If you are if you're 100% of the 100, you're basically writing a letter to yourself every single day.
Yeah.
You know, oh, we're gonna do good, man, and then you just bump your other fist. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah,
you know,
you're your own hype team to your own team.
Yeah.
I fist bump myself all the time. I don't know what's wrong with that. I'm up here in my ivory tower, giving myself fist bumps. I almost said fisting myself, so we're not going to go there.
Yeah, we're not going there. It's another podcast.
We're already there. So now we just got this flagged on YouTube, so nobody's going to see this episode.
Well, I think
get rid of that piece.
I think Lisa tried to confuse us. I mean, I think she had the intention to confuse us with the word scale, because it can be taken in 19,000 different directions. I like Tony's take, because as a normal person, business owner, I hear the word scale and I think bigger.
Yeah,
I think bigger, better. But I also like the concept of scaling to say you're really good at this ability, you're really bad at this ability, and that has to take a coach. Much like you coach a class, you need a coach to tell you that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big piece of it, right? Which is the addition through subtraction conversation as it applies to the behaviors of an individual. Like, you know, now that we've brought up Tesla, I can smell the batteries as all the Musk boys pulling in their cyber trucks to burn us in the comment section about the financial wherewithal of Tesla stock. But like, the reality is that Elon is a fascinating human, and that in of itself is the reason why he is so effective as a business owner. It's not that he's the world's greatest car designer, right? It's not that he had the best idea. I mean, he didn't even come up with the idea of Tesla; he just bought it. Really, the point is that Elon can have a bad day, and by a bad day, that could be any number of political or social upheaval, right? And the next thing you know, he loses his advantage to, I'm not saying he pumps and dumps his own companies, but let's be honest, there's a certain influential lever that he can pull on to drive the stocks of these companies. I'm not here to mitigate or negotiate whether or not that is a good investment, because that's not my realm. But the point is that you as an owner, much to Andrew's point, will need to effectively at some point scale your business. And that usually requires you to, one, delegate and get people on board, but mostly that includes sell your company. And I don't mean like sell it and get out of it. I mean, sell the vision and the mission to anybody who's involved, whether that be employees, whether it be your potential clients and prospects, whether it be the bank that's going to invest in you or loan you, whether that be a potential, private equity group that's going to buy into you, you name it. Your job as the visionary and the owner of the company is to always be selling your business to strangers on the street every single time you come by them. That'd be to the bank, an investor, an employee, you name it, it's your job. And that's, scaling in and of itself, that's the action lever of scaling, right? How that happens, what that looks like inside a business, I think you could get into the weeds of what people think that is. But the reality is that all businesses need to grow, just like humans. The day that we stop growing as humans, we begin dying, right? I think we all know that. I don't think anybody's gonna be that upset about that, but it is a bit mortal, right?
I want to say something right there on that point. But most affiliate owners, they think just growing the business is growing themselves. And this is I'm a huge shout out to Bill Anthons between the ears. If you're ever looking for, whether it be therapy, whether it be training therapy, I mean, he does it all. He's a personal friend. And I'll share this because it's personal. But, I found when I was the captain of my junior college team for 1 year, basketball, and then I was captain for another year at my other university. And my coach came to me one day. They called me Chucky. I don't know why. Last name,
That's never gonna
Charlesworth.
stick.
And he pulled me in his office. He said, "Hey man, we're going through a slight slump." He's like, "Everyone out there can have a bad day. You can't have a bad day." He said, "That's a lot of weight to carry. Everyone else is allowed to have bad days, And that entered like my soul. And that is not a good place to live.
No.
It's not. And if you wear that in your business all the time, it's going to show. Dude, my members, and I'm not through it. My members will hit me up after, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. They're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "No, it doesn't matter." They're like, I know it. I can see in your face, which is good. That's part of what a CrossFit gym is, right? It's that community feel. But if you're going to carry that weight, you're going to end up having to deal with it. So if you don't scale and try to put that passion somewhere else, you're going to end up the same spot I was in.
And, I was talking yesterday to some affiliate owners, and I was saying that, the basis of why FitFilliate was founded was that someone was there for an affiliate owner when they needed it most. And so they didn't have to, it can be the loneliest seat in the world at times, because you're looking around, you got 100 people around you, but no one can really know what's going on inside, like for that reason you just talked about. But I think that's where, and the Skool group is a fantastic entry point for people to be surrounded by like-minded people and create a space where they can talk about something that's actually going on for them. Now, I don't mean about complaining about members, complaining about toilet paper or the music or Killcliff or FitAid or any of that sort of stuff, but like the big stuff that people might be feeling, and be surrounded by like-minded people who are not just going to go, "Yeah, sucks to be you," but actually have a higher level conversation to help pull you through that, rather than just either enable you to sit in that space and continue to be stuck. If you don't necessarily, and we talk about the Skool group as being, everyone's mentoring everybody else, like the early days of, even the message board. So if you don't have your own personal coach to work with, like, this is an option where you can be surrounded by higher level thinking individuals who get it. You don't need to get down in the weeds, like they get it, but they're also not going to let you sit there either.
A post, at least inspired by what you just said, I'm going to draft something up for the Skool group, because I think there's a lot to unpack there.
You should probably just keep referring to it as the Founders League, so people don't think we're talking about.
Yeah, okay. The Founders League, baby.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. It kind of feels like Pokemon-ish to me.
Yeah.
I'm
now we've lost half our listeners.
FitFilliate's brand is based on finding your why and never stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes people are embarrassed, ashamed to admit their why. But when you admit your why around like-minded individuals, there's a sense of freedom. There truly is. You put yourself out there. You say, "Hey, this is me. This is exactly," you might come in and be like, "Guys, I'm not gonna lie. I came in this to support my family, 7 people, yada, yada." I mean, that's going to carry a different weight than somebody's like, "Dude, my why is I took the level 1 and I just freaking love it." And the conversations are going to be different. And what you're going to get out of the group is probably going to be different.
And, part of the conversation I had yesterday, someone asked, what stops people asking for help? And one of the things I touched on was, it's that, and I know we've talked about this on the podcast, it's that feeling of shame and going, when you put a group of affiliate owners together in a bar at the games, everyone's like, no, it's fine. It's great. Yeah, I've got 300. I've got 200. It's like a absolute measuring competition of the worst kind, but no one's going to sit there and go,
What kind of measuring?
just a measuring competition.
Okay, just a measuring competition.
Just
Got it.
a, but no one's going to sit there and go, you know what? I've actually got 50 members and I cry on my way up to the driveway as I drive up to the doors every day. I cry on the way out because I hate, this thing, and no one's going to say that. And it's that shame in going, well, I should know, this whole concept of I should know all the answers because I'm the one writing the damn line. But when you're in a group that's going to help you think high, but also provide that space where you're like, I don't have to have the answers, but I can be forced to think critically and not get stuck where I'm at. And you're right. It's that whole embarrassment of, well, maybe my why is not as cool as someone else's. And when we get into that comparison and all that sort of stuff, and I should be doing better, when it's like, it's your journey, dude. You just walk it and we'll walk it alongside you.
And then a lot of times people's vice is to just run their head into the wall because that's the true CrossFit way, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah, run into the fire.
I will, instead of having these why conversations, I will just lift more. I will just coach more. I'll just try to improve my coaching, which none of those things are inherently bad. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to get there. You have to have a level of vulnerability to admit to things.
Yep. And that can only be curated in the right space, which I think we're doing an excellent job of in the Founders League.
So back to scale. I think there's a couple of parts about it that I want to bring some degree of tactical value to this thing, because I think we've been talking about theory and denouncing the word scale, and it's just its misuse, because I don't want to just carte blanche say you can grow or die, because that's insensitive, right? Because you can absolutely grow and die, right? And if we bring this back to fitness, you've seen this exact example, right? Somebody who invests all their time into becoming display model only certainly does not exhibit all the biomarkers of health that we tend to reflect on, at least as CrossFitters, in terms of recognition of health, right? I think we know that. It's not to say that like bodybuilders are less healthier than CrossFit, but we understand the correlation of like just doing more for the sake of more doesn't inherently increase the net benefit that we're all in fact after, even if somebody actually looks like they might in fact be much healthier, right? The same can be true in business. And scale, I think scale becomes the byproduct. It is the word that gets the attention, but it is the means that is arrived at through the action of innovation. The one thing that is absolutely vital in every single business is that you must remain in innovation. The day a business ceases to innovate is the day that it begins to die. It can grow and grow exponentially in terms of numbers, but without innovation, even that growth is on a very limited trajectory. At some point, it's either going to get capped, cut off, killed, bought out, beaten, you name it. So business must always continue to innovate. And here's why this is important in the scale conversation, in the fitness correlation, is that, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, by the way, but high five to me on that one. Innovation is the byproduct of understanding why your business needs to exist. It is the byproduct of protecting and appreciating and curating curiosity and creativity inside your business. And with that conversation, I hope that anybody listening to this can start to see where the problem arises, because we live in a landscape now, the affiliate landscape now, where creativity has become the enemy. The group cry, the battle cry of the masses at this point is standardization and ideas and concepts and best practices. And best practices are almost in every single concept the antithesis of innovation. If we're all doing the same thing, nobody is innovating. And innovation, just for a definition's sake, is essentially to provide the most amount of value for the least amount of money.
Correct. I'm glad you brought that up, because innovation should lower costs.
Yeah, both potentially for your customers, no doubt about it, but absolutely for the business. You want to find a way, you must always be looking for a way to continue to provide the most amount of service and value to your clients for less and less and less money for the business. And then hopefully passing that on to the customers at one point. And so businesses have to innovate every single day or they will die. It is the It is the curse. It is the cancer of business. And so to scale is to measure the degree of innovation of your company, period. Just as though to fitness is to measure the degree of the exercise of your training, right? Or the intention of your training, rather. And so as we enter into the conversation about scaling or not scaling, or what is scaling, it's quite simply just that. And to innovate, that just simply looks at like, how much better can we do the thing that we do? And then how can we better utilize things like technology, resources, delegation, teams, outsourcing, et cetera, to drive down those costs, right? Because at the end of the day, to scale is essentially to put the cost as low as possible in your business, drive your revenue as much as possible, but most importantly, to do so with the least amount of resources. That includes, most importantly, you as the resource, as the business owner. The easiest way, the most important way to scale your affiliate first is to scale you right out the door.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
What's scary, right? I mean, I think, the second part of the conversation, which is where we were just at with this one, is where it gets scary, right? Where the ego comes into the conversation, or where we think we need to have the answers. It isn't that we think we need to have the answers. It's that we have a collective belief that our value is determined by the amount of answers that we do have. This is perpetual in the entirety of space, right? Like everybody feels this way. If I know something, that means I'm better than the person who doesn't know something. But true intelligence is almost always demonstrated by your ability to ask better questions rather than to have better answers, right? Because true intelligence is your ability to bring creativity, ideation, and innovation from other people and to deploy that and utilize that. If you think that your value is going to be derived by how smart you are, you'll be the greatest worker in the room. If you think that your intelligence is
which is okay, and then some people might understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that example all the time with knowing thyself, right? You don't actually know what you want until you put that on the table.
Success is only a singular demonstration of where we have all collectively arrived, right? Some of us will stop much sooner than others, right? And where purpose will drive you is completely different from person to person. And I think it's important for people to know that if you really want to get to really anywhere, it's not going to be about how much you know. It will almost always be about your ability to pull those ideas and that information from others. Whether that be in a CrossFit affiliate, that be in another business, that be as a leader, that be as a friend, as a family member, as a father, a brother, you name it, sister too, I suppose. I don't want to leave them out, right? So we've got to stop the whole idea that what I know makes me valuable.
Well, it's getting, that point that Tosh makes, don't let your knowing get in the way. I've misquoted, but, the concept of...
We knew where you were going with it.
Yeah, you knew where I was going with it. It's just not letting that get in the way of what you could learn and be open to.
So when it comes time to scale a business, everybody does the same thing, right? What do? They look around for industry practices or best practices, right? They say, oh, what is a good growth rate for a CrossFit affiliate? What's a good membership? What's a good price point? And so they set their goals based on that. Oh, I should have 300 members because the gyms that have 300 members seem like they're doing much better than I do at 100 members, right? But if we're talking about innovation and we're talking about, actual fitness and context here, 300 members in a place like Boston is going to be very different than 300 members in a place like Branson, Missouri, right? So context absolutely matters, and that's why it's completely irrelevant, to even have these mimetic pursuits inside the CrossFit landscape, because we don't choose target markets, landscapes that are demographically and logistically similar. They're completely different. They're completely radical.
And I also think that speaks to pre-templated concepts.
Yeah, it's completely insensitive, right? I mean, the idea that this will work in every single market, sure, without consideration as to where you're trying to get to, what parameters you're playing against, and really what's your intention and your goal. Because to your point before about it being absolutely okay to be the hardest worker in the room, that's all you want to do. If I came in and said, hey, we got to innovate this thing, get you right out the door, Like if for somebody who's like, I just want to come in and be the only coach, that's my idea of success. That'd be completely insensitive of me to tell them that their idea of success is wrong. Right? And like that's the thing that's happened. So when it comes time to scale, we look around and we look for ideas. We look for inspiration. And what we end up doing, we emulate, we copy, we mimic. And we've said it on here before. I've said it on here before. 86% of all businesses are line item extensions of other businesses. And that's how it happens. When it comes time to innovate, we lack creativity. So we look for inspiration in our industry. We end up coming up with better ideas or measuring sticks to go after, which then lead us astray. And then all that does is lower our ability to be creative. The more we continue to follow, the more chaotic things get. The more chaotic things get, the more fear comes in. Fear is the antithesis of creativity. You can't be creative when you're scared, right? So the more we pursue the things that we don't have because other people do have it, the less creative we become. And the one thing that we need in order to innovate is creativity. And this is why the affiliate landscape is in such jeopardy. Right? The two biggest threats facing it are standardization and doubt. Those two things are the linchpins of fear and lack of creativity.
Do you think that fear is mostly driven from their revenue, though?
I think it's a byproduct of all the things that have gone wrong. Right? The business model is failing. The industry seems failing. It seems dead-ended. You can insert whatever you want in there. It could be, lack of revenue, lack of good staff, lack of enough clients, lack of enough interest, lack of things that HQ is apparently doing for them, blah, 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 blah. All these things come out. But all of it comes back to one thing. When's the last time you got creative? Most affiliate owners do not want to get creative because they don't believe in their ability to solve their own problems. They're scared of it. So they want someone else to tell them to do it. But that's just because they're in this deadlock cycle of fear-based thinking. We've got to get them to start understanding that, dude, you guys have always had all the answers. And that's why we built the Skool group. That's why the Founders League was created, was to remind you guys and put you in a room with other highly vetted affiliate owners that will just share better ideas. So you realize, oh, all I ever had to do was just talk to each other. But that's a different part of the conversation. Affiliate owners, they think that each other are competition. It's not the case.
You're muted, Lisa.
I am muted. I got myself wrong there for a minute. Harsh, but fair. That was a part of the conversation, I had yesterday, is like CrossFit, other CrossFit affiliate owners aren't your competition. The competition is all these other noises and distractions. Like, we need to lift each other up to almost go back to 2010, 2005, where if a new affiliate opened, everybody in the area would go and make sure that they had a successful opening. Or do you want me to bring an extra row or a kettlebell or whatever? Like, that's what would happen. Everyone would go and be supportive. If you need anything, reach out. Now it's like, oh my God, Andrew's open up down the road from me. I hate him so much. Like, that's not your competition. And we've got to get out of that scarcity space of that. And that's where the Founders League is powerful, is that it's a space of abundance and we're all learning from each other. Not, well, if I say that, they're going to take away my secrets and do better than me. That's not what it's about. It's not Facebook.
Hopefully they learned in there that other affiliate owners are assets, not liabilities. I think that's the thing that I wish that I was even reminded of more often, was that we're not, we say a cliche, right? Everybody, we're all in this together. But the truth is that there's no way that every affiliate in town could be your competitor. They are your competitor. Let me be very clear. If all of you don't have a reason to be in business and you think that your version of success is CrossFit's version of success, then you're absolutely competing for all the CrossFitters in town. And there's not many CrossFitters in town. So don't be surprised when, 2 or 3 gyms are competing for the same 200 or 300 people in town. But if it's your job to help people improve their quality of life and their longevity and all the things that we know to be valuable, there's tens of thousands of people, even in the smallest towns.
Yep. And that's the powerful place to be. And once you're in that position, you can, realize that you can do anything. Scale it however you want it.
Innovate it however you want.
Well, that too.
So I think the thesis is we don't know what the word scale means. We know
what scale means.
We renamed it 17 different times.
scale is simply a measurement. It's a byproduct of innovation. It is the direct correlation and measurement of innovation. Innovation in and of itself is not measurable. It's not objective.
Yeah.
Innovation is subjective.
If you wanted the definition, I'm glad that you've stuck around for the end of the episode to get that. So perfect. We just need, that's like the clickbait at the start to get people to go to the end, to the teaser to get to the answer. So we've just done that. So good job, team. But I think that's a good note to put a pin in this one. Thank you, gentlemen.
Do you ever actually put pins in them? Because you say that every time, but where's this pin go?
There's a whole wall in front of me covered with pins. Mainly it's pictures of Tony, which is weird, but we'll talk. I
figured as much. The pins. That's why I'm hurting, because Lisa has a voodoo doll of me.
Many. But in the show notes, there will be a link to join the Founders League. Jump on board and be part of that group. Again, not everybody's accepted, so send your application in and click on that link. Otherwise, please give us a like or a subscribe on your favorite platform, and you can follow us on Instagram at FitFilliate. And until next week, gentlemen, have a good week.
Ciao.